Welcome to the Across the Spoilerverse podcast. I'm your host, Paul. As usual, give him my real name now because we jumped in quickly and I don't know who the hell I was supposed to say I was. So it's Paul from the Heavy Spoilers Show for once, joined by Greg Alper from Real Rejects. How's it going, Greg? What's on the agenda today?
Well, brother, we got a lot on the agenda today. We're going to talk box office. We got some big box office reports. We got Wonder Woman news. We got Fantastic Four. And we got some strike news to talk about. But there's one very important piece of information that I wanted to convey to the audience before we move forward. At the time of uploading this, it is Paul's birthday, ladies and gentlemen. And I wanted to say happy birthday to Paul. In all sincerity, Paul has been an amazing, amazing friend to me over the years. We started talking randomly one day when it came to like Godzilla versus Kong, just hitting him up. And I feel like ever since then, we have talked, I think, like every single day for like many years.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for you.
Yeah.
And you've been massive. You've been, yes, in terms of like YouTube colleague and all that, you've been an insane help. There are certain things on my channel that I have absolutely like credit Paul for like helping to really change the direction and help change the business all around. But more than that, you've been just like one of my closest friends over the past couple of years. And like I have a lot of late nights where we have a time difference. So you're 8 hours ahead of me. So a lot of times if I'm working at like midnight or 1 a.m., you're my friend I'm talking to at that hour all the time. And yeah, it's been incredible. So to be able to do this with you, I still feel this need whenever we're on a podcast because I admire your work so much. Like everything I do is so like off the dome, but you're so research heavy and you're so intelligent and articulate that even when I come on this show with you, I still got this like thing in the back of my head. It's like I want to make a good impression with Paul, even though I'm like so comfortable with you. Whenever we hit record, I have this thing in my heart that's like, make a good impression with this guy because I admire you that much, my friend. So
That doesn't sound like you do.
I do, man.
Sounds like you fear for your
I
life.
fear for my life. I feel like he's got shit on me. He's got receipts on me. He can get me canceled at any moment. Nah, seriously, you've been
Thank you
amazing. So
very
happy
much.
birthday to you, man. I hope you're able to enjoy it with the family and the twinsies. And can't wait to visit you in UK one day. One of these days, I will actually see you physically in person. It's so odd. I've never seen you in person. But I'm like, no, he's one of my closest friends, but yet I've never actually met you in person.
3 foot tall, 35 years young tomorrow, guys. Well, today, if you're watching this. So yeah, I appreciate that, Greg. I'm sure we've just lost all the viewers now, but I appreciate
Not what I clicked on here for.
Such a nice message to start the show. Yeah. Well, people love the negativity apparently because we're Mr. Negative and we just say everything's rubbish. But we're going to start off with some good news, Greg. What's the good news this week?
The good news is that we've got some crazy box office news, man. David Zaslav is having a hell of a day because Barbie, it's continuing to dominate the box office. It's ranking, it went up against new releases with The Meg 2 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. And it came in first again and it passed the $1 billion mark in 17 days.
That's great.
First film to do that, directed solely by a woman. Yes, for women. And Oppenheimer still holding really strong. $552 million worldwide, becoming Nolan's sixth film to cross the 500 million mark. And The Meg is actually doing pretty well as well. Meg 2, what's it at right now? $112 million. So like in the States, it's doing okay in the States, but overseas, $112 million. It's co-produced by a Chinese company, and I think in China it's doing extremely well. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, while not being high, we're going to go through all these in a second, just giving the quick little breakdown. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, while just debuting at number 4 out here, it's still got an A cinema score. There's not too much competition coming out over the next few weeks. So it's expected that even though it debuted, like mediocre, it can have pretty good legs, specifically due to the word of mouth. And from everyone I know that's seen it, they're very jovial when it comes to talking about their experience with the film. So all around, man, yeah. Other than Haunted Mansion, every film's looking really good at the box office right now.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I would say, maybe 7 or 8. I've stopped doing scores on my reviews because one week I'll give like a really bad movie an 8, and then the next week I'll give a really good movie an 8, and it's like, where's the difference here, mate? You know what I mean? You're giving The Flash an 8, but then you're giving like John Wick 4 an 8, even though I think I give it a 9. But whatever. And so I've just stopped doing scores. But I did a video on it recently. I enjoyed it. I felt like it was kind of across the Spider-Verse, but with the adult jokes stripped out of it. Now there
Mm.
are some adult jokes in there, obviously but it's very clearly aimed at kids. It's very much like let's make it a movie for kids, rather than like let's try and hit up both demographics, with adults and children. So I mean, it was all right. It's the start of a franchise. They kind of Batman Begins it a bit at the end, where it's like, quite a minor, low key villain for this film, and then they tease towards something bigger coming down the line. They've got, I think Paramount Plus have got 2 seasons of a spin-off show
Oh,
coming.
cool.
That's going to sort of bridge the gap between this movie and the sequel, and then they're going to do a sequel. But the way they set it up at the end, they kind of tease towards something. If you know the expanded lore of the turtles and stuff, then you're gonna recognize some characters in the film that tease towards some things coming in the future. And it was, yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. It's a good start. It's kind of doing around the same numbers that Spider Verse did, like the first one. And I think over the next couple of years, once it gets the seasons out there and it starts to build an audience that way, then come next time it could be an across the Spider Verse situation where you've got a much bigger audience because they've caught it on streaming. Same way Into the Spider Verse kind of built an audience on Netflix. By the time the second one rolled around, everyone was like, "Yeah, let's go see it." So I think it's going to be a similar sort of thing with that. But I don't think it's quite the level that Into the Spider Verse
Mm.
was. Obviously, that got the Oscar as well. I don't feel like this is going to get the Oscar,
Well, they
in terms of
they
animated.
announced already that it's going to be coming out on digital in less than a month. It's coming out like September 5th, if I'm not mistaken. It's
Yeah,
kind of odd that they
and
announced
they
that
did
shit
some.
opening weekend, like opening weekend. It's coming out in like 3 weeks on digital. It's really odd to me that they do that.
Well, they're doing it with that last voyage of the
Mm,
Demeter. The Dracula
Dracula one, yeah.
story. That's coming out on the 11th of August, and they've already announced
Sweet.
that it's like 17th of September is going to be its digital release date.
Wow.
And it's like, why? Why? I was going to rush out and see it, saw that, and thought, I'll
Yeah.
wait, guys. So yeah, strange tactics, in Hollywood. I feel like a lot of the time they don't really know what they're doing, and when they do get a big success like Barbie and Oppenheimer, they kind of get why, but they can't fully grasp exactly what's happened, and it was more kind of like a fluke or luck, or they weren't expecting it to be that big, and it turned out, and I don't feel like they have a massive grasp on the situation of why things do well and why certain things don't. But brilliant for Barbie. I mean, passing 1 billion. That's absolutely incredible. I'm gonna take another L. I'm gonna be taking L's every week because I said I thought it would do okay, but even the opening predictions, I'm sure they were lower than it took. They were around about the 80 to 100 million, or I remember 70 getting thrown out there as
Yeah,
well.
it was 80 to
But it,
100
it
million.
surpassed
It
all
was
that.
80 to 100.
Yeah, and even something like Oppenheimer that was predicted to do like okay, but I was reading the other day that it's getting like $10 million a day, like clockwork, every single
Mm.
day. So yeah, it's crazy that both these things have done this well. It's a good move for them. I'm glad to see that it shows cinemas out there and it's alive and it's not just fully reliant on superhero movies. I think you do need these wins once in a while to show, look, mate, you can make other movies that are good and people will go see them.
Do you think that it will start a trend of movies trying to help promote each other the way how Barbie and Oppenheimer were able
Yeah,
to do it? Because that's kind of an unprecedented thing that was definitely generated by social media. And then they took great advantage of that. And I think they could really do
yeah,
that with other films. It's rare where you have two big films competing with each other these days on the exact same opening weekend. That's a brilliant strategy because they're so different. I haven't seen Barbie yet. I was away for Comic Con. You know how it is. You're like, I'm too late to seeing it now. Might as well just wait. It's that when it comes to coverage on the channel and stuff. So I was gonna see it in the theaters, but I was away for Comic-Con. And now I'm just gonna wait to cover it when it comes out on digital. But this is an insane
Yeah.
strategy. It really paid off immensely, and I find it
Well,
incredible.
yeah. Well, Tom Cruise has kind of been predicting this for a while. I think he kind of tried to cash in on the whole Oppenheimer and Barbie movement, but even during the pandemic when stuff started opening up again, I remember there was that video of him going to see
Mhm.
Tenet. And it was kind of him like showing like, look, cinema's alive and stuff, and sort of just him being there and doing these sort of things. I think he's realized that the way to promote cinema is to have the stars promoting other films and kind of building up everything as an event, a reason to go to the cinema. And obviously, Barbenheimer has kind of been the totalitarian. So I try to use fancy words on the podcast. It doesn't always work out all the time. It's kind of the first big example we've had where something's kind of really helped push another movie and pushed itself. And I think Tom Cruise kind of realized that
Yeah.
almost when he was going to see Tenet, and obviously he did it just in the lead up to Barbie and Oppenheimer. It didn't work out quite well in terms of what Paramount were doing, but something's going on at that studio because the scheduling for them this year has been terrible. They've always dropped their movies like around a weird time. I'm sure Dungeons and Dragons came out like at a weird
Yeah.
time, and I think Turtles is one of theirs as well.
Mhm.
And that, yeah, dropping that like the week after Barbenheimer, but in the same week as the Meg 2. It's weird thing to do. They kind of maybe should have done that. I personally thought around the school holidays. Haunted Mansion's another one where originally it was the Marvels that was meant to be dropping in that place, but they swapped the release dates, and that's why the Marvels is coming out in November. But Haunted Mansion feels weird dropping that movie in July instead of Halloween. Very strange. And the Disney earnings calls coming up this week. I think it's Thursday they're having
That'd be
it.
fun.
Don't feel like it's gonna do well. Now, as much as we crap on Warner Brothers, they actually had a really good earnings
Yeah.
call. Apparently they've increased their direct sales by quite a lot. They've I'm not sure the exact figures, but there was something like they were 4 billion in the hole and they managed to drop that down to 2 billion or something. No, that might not be the right number, but it was basically there was a couple of billions that they were in the hole, and they managed to reduce that by quite a lot. Zaslav, um, to be fair to the guy, he has came in and done what he wanted to do, which was reduce the debt, have some successes, but he also did some stupid comments as well, talking about like, well, since the strikes have been going on, we've saved $100 million, and it's like,
No shit.
yeah, but every company,
Yeah.
yeah, now you might not know this, Greg, but during the pandemic, pretty Pretty Patel, one of our politicians, she was when everyone was in lockdown, she was bragging how because she was like the head of the Home Office and she was handling like law and order, and she was bragging about how shoplifting was down, and it's like, well, yeah, because everything's closed, you
Yeah.
idiot. And it was that kind of situation where he was saying like, "Oh, we've saved loads of money because we're not having to pay wages." And it's like, yeah, mate, every single company in the world, when their workforce goes on strike, they save money from not paying
Yeah.
them. It's a stupid thing to brag
It's a
about.
strange way to try to spin a really obvious narrative when you're trying to talk to your investors and your stockholders. To be like, look at all the money we're saving. I mean, maybe they want. I feel like we'll dive a little bit more into it, but I am part of the camp that does believe some of these studios, I imagine, did want the strike to happen to save costs on things, to use it as an excuse to cancel other properties and whatnot. But as long as we're on the
Yeah.
positive side of the news in this section of the podcast, Warner Brothers has had a relatively decent year. I mean, they even had, I'm just remembering right now, they had Evil Dead Rise, which did very, very well for them as well. And I feel like they're two films that have done remarkably well when it comes to Barbie and Evil Dead Rise, were the two movies they didn't anticipate would be the box office behemoths that they ultimately became. I think they were really counting on. It seems like everyone was counting on The Flash, and every box office analyst was also thinking The Flash would do really well. But that's their
I've just realized Tom Cruise was used to promote The Flash
yeah,
as well.
exactly.
So Tom Cruise is like getting ahead of everything, promoting other movies. But yeah, like you were saying, the Flash, that all of the DC movies, really, to be honest, they were predicted to be the big tentpole things. And that was actually another thing that came from the earnings call. They were talking about how they were gonna kind of lean away from tentpoles and do more kind of quality, lower budget films, and try and make the best movies they could instead of doing just these constant big massive things, which we've been saying for a while. Try and just don't spend crate like $300 million on a movie, because it's going to be very difficult for it to even break even.
Yeah.
And if it bombs, which we've seen a lot of big bombs this year, then it's kind of embarrassing for the whole company. And
I, th-
yeah, just best to not take that risk if you don't have
I
to.
think when the strikes are over, every studio, primarily Disney and Warner Brothers, obviously, are going to be re-examining how much they should spend on superhero films, in particular. Because I'm aware that Warner Brothers, they even have a department there at Warner Brothers. I forget which company it specifically is, but it's in conjunction with the ones who produce like the Pennywise films and whatnot, where they have their mid-budget films.
Blumhouse?
No, Blumhouse is with generally partners with Universal,
Yeah,
but they like
true, true,
Blumhouse
true.
tends to be in the really low budget range, like $1 million to
Yeah,
$10 million, and then Warner Brothers, they have a section where they have their mid-budget. And that's
it's a new line.
New Line, yeah. So they want to have their films fall a little bit more under that category where they're not exactly low, they're not exactly high budget, but they're enough to make like a big splash at the box office, especially when it comes to their horror films. But I think when it comes to superhero movies, they're going to be really re-examining how much they should be throwing at it. And I think post strike, I feel like that's partly of why they wanted to do, of why I imagine studios wanted the strike. I mean, yeah, they save costs, like everyone is the way. It's a good, neat way to spin it on the calls, Zasloff. But at the same time, you're hearing about like Bob Iger might want to cancel the live action remake of Hunchback of Notre Dame, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Notre Dame, I
Notre
say.
Dame. That's how I've always said Notre Dame. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a time for them to reevaluate, and I keep saying it to go. Oh, because of the strike, we got to cancel these things, um, because I don't think they imagined Barbie would be as huge of a film as it ended up becoming, and Oppenheimer also is like way bigger than like that. That is such to me what no the Christopher Nolan name. There's like no director out there. I can't think of another director who has as strong of a household name as Christopher Nolan. We don't really even have that celebrity anymore. A lot of people say like Tom Cruise is the last big celebrity, where his name alone can sell box office receipts. But even Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, granted there's a lot of things working against it right now, that's even underperforming based off of what everyone thought it would do, and it's not gonna even match what Fallout did. But Christopher Nolan, is there another director out there where you slap his name on there? I know Tenet didn't do well, but that came out during the pandemic, and I had to travel like an hour to go watch that movie, so it wasn't really playing anywhere. But Nolan, his name alone, sell, that's like a big conjunction with it, because I think even there's something about Christopher Nolan that I don't know if a lot of people really notice this, but do you notice how all his films have this? What is the font for his movies? They all have that same kind of font. And I think that is very purposeful. It started with Batman Begins, and he hasn't really changed the kind of font that he uses in the trailers and the marketing and the titles for his films. And I think that's so intentional to make people know this is a Christopher Nolan joint, and no other director can pull off something like this. Because someone else, as I'm saying this because someone else could have probably directed Oppenheimer, maybe even made the exact same film, but because it's Christopher Nolan, the interest is much higher due to it. That's insane to me that there's like one director who can pull that off.
Yeah, well, he wrote it as well.
True.
But I know what you mean about the font. Every time a Christopher Nolan film ends, it cuts to black, and then you get the title in white writing across it. But yeah, I mean, studios have lost a lot on superhero movies this year. There has been some things that have done all right, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's done well, but it didn't break the billion. Personally, I feel it should have. I know there's lots of discussions on Twitter like, oh, well, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. They're quite a low key sort of team, but the way they've been built up the last couple of years, and for it to be the third film in the franchise as well, I feel like, that should have broken a billion when you look at the other superheroes that have done it. Captain Marvel, for example. There has been a couple of billion-dollar films in the MCU that, with the right marketing, you can push for it. Black Panther as well, wasn't a massive hero at the time. That was their first film. Obviously, these movies also are building off the hype between, up to Infinity War and Endgame and so on. But for this to be the third film, I feel like, a movie like that had a lot of potential to do it. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was introducing Kang, didn't do crazy numbers, and I think, with the Flash, they've just realized like the audience isn't there unless it's a big thing. The way Endgame was sold, that was the Super Bowl of the entire comic book movie. The whole thing was like the Endgame is the big event. It's the end game of it. And they've realized like we're spending far too much on these smaller. I think it was Charlemagne who said it and used that metaphor of the Super Bowl being what Endgame was, and then they're using the same budget on Saturday morning league football or something. And it feels like that when you see the budget for Secret Invasion and stuff. I think they're going to start to realize like, oh, we have overspent on these things, and there's clearly money in things like Barbie and Oppenheimer where they've got lower budgets, more artistically driven, and there's, they're taking a unique spin on things. So I think going forward, they will pull that back.
Well,
Now, in regards to
can I
superhero
just say
movies,
too, the kind of movies
Mhm.
that Barbie and Oppenheimer are, AI cannot replicate those kind of movies. Like an AI script cannot do that. You need.
Yeah,
I'm going to be really taking the stand here for that. Yeah, like these are original. I haven't. I mean, I haven't seen Barbie, but every opinion I've heard about it, whether they like it or not, definitely has an original way of going about it. I've seen, as Christopher Nolan has a very specific voice as well. And if you, when you're hearing the talk about studios wanting to use AI for their scripts and whatnot, the films that are breaking the box office right now, the ones that are doing phenomenal, AI cannot pull that shit off. AI will just pull from other things and be these the movies that feel like they're being carbon copies or being too similar to other movies. They're the ones that people are going, I've kind of seen that before. This feels generic. You need original voice. You need those voices when they're in the writing room, having that process of discovery, the true emotion behind it, trying to do something really unique. That's why you need your writers. That's why you need original artists and not to rely on AI for your screenplays. And I feel like I really hope studios realize this is why the WGA is really fighting for something like this, because the films that are doing phenomenally well have an original voice to them, and you're just not going to get that with AI. You won't. So yeah, I just want to
yeah,
throw that in there.
definitely. Yeah. So yeah, next story, Wonder Woman 3. Gal Gadot has said they're kind of working on things. She's met with James and Peter Safran, and they're kind of figuring things out. Now, this was recorded it would have been
Mm-hmm.
pre-strike because obviously the marketing, they can't actually sit and answer questions and do interviews now. So she was talking about the Superman casting as well. And this was before it had been formally announced, which kind of puts it back a couple of months. Now we're going on the DCU or DCU plan again. Greg, what do you think's happening with Wonder Woman 3? Because I've got a bit of a theory, but do you think it's wise to do Wonder Woman 3? What are your thoughts?
Part of me, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this without it sounding messed up. Because I heard
Do you want me
I,
to
I
go?
heard from the hot, I think it was the hot mic pod, the one with Jeff Snyder and John Roca, two people I actually know, that is pretty much like a misunderstanding from Gal Gadot's end. that
Okay.
they discussed it. But it was more like, well, yeah, we want to work the way how James Gunn has told everyone. We want to work together. Like, he even said that to Henry Cavill, and Dwayne Johnson. We want to work together in the future. And it, and I'm wondering if that got misunderstood. But then there's also other things because James Gunn hasn't clarified this because it very well could just be they're doing a Wonder Woman 3 and Patty Jenkins just won't be involved in it. I feel like though that what I don't agree with is everyone who suddenly came out on Twitter saying that she's a horrible Wonder Woman. For some reason, that's the only part of it that I really don't agree with. Is people were just coming out the woodwork like, "Oh, she's terrible, sucks, terrible actress." What are you guys talking? I thought she was a great Wonder Woman. I think that they do have to do a clean slate. It would be bizarre as hell to me if you're going to get rid of our Batman from that universe, our Superman from that universe, and then, I mean, there's no Cyborg. They're definitely going to get rid of Ezra Miller. Uh, Jason Momoa seems like up in the air. He could be Lobo or not. It would to just do another Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot. As much as I like her, I think DC definitely needs to have clarity on what their universe is ultimately shaping into, and they need to get rid of any type of confusion in order to get this thing on track. Because bottom line, the DCEU or whatever this universe is, outside of the Batman and Joker, it is a failure. Like when you look at the box office, it is a failure, and they need to. I don't think they should do it if this is the case. So yeah, I
Yeah.
personally don't think they should do it, and it just doesn't make sense to me to suddenly do Wonder Woman 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I read it, were like, and after thinking about it, because do you remember when James Gunn did that big announcement
Hmm.
video? He talked about the Wonder Woman Paradise
Yeah. Yeah.
Lost TV show or something on HBO
Yeah.
Max. So the way I thought it was going to be is that it's kind of she's a producer, you know what I mean? She's a producer on that, and that's basically going to set up the new Wonder Woman. It's going to be a sort of prequel. Diana in her early years, we saw her as a child, and then we saw her as an adult, but we didn't really get that time in between, which I think would be the perfect place to cast maybe a 20-year-old Wonder Woman or something, or late teens, and then have her become the DCU Wonder Woman. Now they might do something where Gal Gadot's like reminiscing on the past, sitting going, I remember when I was 20 years old in human years, but it was like 1,000 years on Themyscira. But anyway, just go back to another
Hmm.
actress. So I think they might do something like that. Now, I completely agree, and we've talked this point to death, but I really do think that they need to just reboot everything. And that is purely because, the universe kind of feels like a mess. There's also lots of different fans of different properties. Like, I'm a big Zack Snyder guy, don't hide it. But I also liked some of the stuff that they did. I like James Gunn's Suicide Squad. And even though Zack wasn't connected to things, there were a lot of people that were getting enthusiastic about sort of where things were going with the Walter Hamada stuff. That's kind of a swear word if you say that online on Twitter now. But it hit a point where Black Adam obviously brought back Henry Cavill, and then people got invested in that universe. And then they're kind of resetting it and giving it a James Gunn thing, and people are getting invested in that universe. But then there's a chance that he could do a hard reboot, and all the stuff in the Flash could be wiped clean. And you're getting people invested in every single iteration. Like when the Snyder Cut came back, I thought, we might not get another sequel or something, but we might get an animated universe spin-off or something where we explore this, and I'm invested in that. But then you hit Black Adam, and then you set up something with Henry Cavill, and people get invested in that, and it's kind of like, I think you just need a hard reset and stop sort of bringing these elements across from the past to kind of sort of soft reboot things. Because at what point do they just say we're not going to work? Because I believe if they don't hard reboot it now, they'll do it in 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's purely because I personally don't think the box office interest is there. Now, the last 7 DCEU projects, they've most of them have flopped, and none of them have really. I'm sure I read somewhere that the last 7 hadn't passed $400 million at the box office. Now, these are the ones that are in their connected universe, so it's not Batman, it's not Joker. But I mean, Blue Beetle, that's not going to do well. I mean, the tracking for that's really low. So, I mean, that's 8 flops in a row, right? If Aquaman 2 does badly, that's going to be 9 flops in a row. It doesn't set things up well for Superman Legacy. And say, you know, they bring across things like Amanda Waller, or which we know they're doing, or they bring across like Gal Gadot to be the Wonder Woman in that universe. It's still going to be connected to that. And then say Superman Legacy, you know, it's doing this thing where it's sort of tied in with that universe. If that flops, that's like 10 flops in a row. I'm sure it'll do okay. I don't think it's going to do bananas numbers. I don't think the studio's really expecting it to. I think they're kind of thinking, well, we'll start off good and then we'll slowly build it up like the MCU
You
did.
think Superman Legacy is
But
not
I
going to do
mean,
well?
I think it'll do okay. I don't think it's going to make an insane amount of money, and that's purely just off the plot leaks I've heard as well. You know, it's going to be a James Gunn movie, so I'm sure it'll be well received. I think people will enjoy it, but I don't know if it's going to have that complete general audience sweep. And that's just the character in general. Unfortunately, you know, Superman. He's the most famous superhero out there, but there's a lot of the audience I feel that in general don't find him that relatable. I really like him, but I think there is very much a set of the audience who haven't, you know, they didn't grow up in the Christopher Reeves movies. They might not have been attached to Henry Cavill, and there's kind of that audience that you need to win round and get on board. Now, I've been wrong in the past again with Barbie, but like, at what point do they, if stuff goes badly or it doesn't hit a certain amount, at what point do they reset? Because let's bear in mind this is Warner Brothers, who I know you said the DCEU's been a failure, but Man of Steel did all right, did pretty well. Batman v Superman did did good. Didn't hit the billion, but it did
Going
really
off
good.
the last 7 films, Paul. That's what I'm going off of.
Yeah. Suicide Squad, the first one, not well received, but it did good numbers. But it made money, but they were still panicking over that. Now we're 7 movies in, about to be 8 that have all flopped, and it doesn't seem like they're like realizing it. I don't get why they realized it back then and thought that was bad and we have to reset. And now with this, they're like, nah, let's bring across Wonder Woman and do whatever. So it is weird, and I think if they might have to reset very soon anyway if stuff keeps bombing, because at what point we're very close to being 8 flops in a row, and if Aquaman 2, you know, might do well, might not, but if it doesn't, then that's 9 in a row. At what point do you be like, come on guys, the writing's on the wall, like, could it just
I'm confused. Do you want Do you want Gal Gadot to continue? I must have missed that. No.
No.
Okay, all right.
I don't think she should. I think I've always been in the camp they should hard reset. I've always said they should, and just for the fact that Batman and Joker as well, just what they've managed to do by not being connected to this thing, I think trying to tie it in is the wrong way to go about it. And you know, you might disagree with my opinion, but the numbers are there, I think, to at least give people like there's a red flag there somewhere where, you know, the general audience isn't connecting with this universe, and even to have loose strands connected to it, like we were sold that the Flash was going to be a big reset of the universe. I don't know if it is at the moment because Aquaman's still in it, and it seems if Gal Gadot gets brought across, then I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, very
Results
strange.
is the name of the game, and I think a hard reset is what's in order. And this is coming from someone who really, I like most of the DC films that have come out. There's a couple of them I really didn't like, but most of them I the ones you listed at the beginning. I'm a big defender of. I love the Snyder films, and I even like Birds of Prey, and that's the number 1 movie that people crap on, and I like that one too. So yeah, I like the DC films for the most part, but clearly the way it registers with audiences, there needs to be a change. And I think with the Superman Legacy, I feel like the whole box office is going to be extremely dependent on that very first trailer, because it's really easy to
said it.
do a trailer for the new Superman to make you go, wow, this feels like traditional Superman, but just feeling like traditional Superman might register as this doesn't feel all that different or original. So if there is a way to convey to the audience that this can be something compelling, something different and unique, yet also the Superman that you love, if there's a way to convey that in 2 to 3 minutes, then I think that can determine what the box office will ultimately be. As I know, Man of Steel didn't quite reach the numbers that they were hoping for, but there was a lot aiding in it with its marketing. You know, Zack Snyder coming over, Christopher Nolan producing it, coming off of The Dark Knight. You know, there was, and also it had a very different look and aesthetic to it as well. So they were at least conveying that this is going to be a different kind of Superman and the people behind it. And this is going to be really reliant on James Gunn, you know, with his name attached to it in the start of the new DC universe. But still, that first trailer I think is going to be the end all be all for it. And like a second trailer always helps,
Yeah.
but first impression is everything when it comes down to this. But we got other casting stuff that we could talk about that seems confirmed. It seems confirmed for our favorite family in the Marvel universe for Fantastic Four. Do you want to talk about it, Paulson?
Yeah. So Vanessa Kirby is apparently going to be Sue Storm.
Dope.
I mean, that's the worst kept secret in Hollywood right now. Because I mean, I heard that a while back, and then they kind of just threw Margot Robbie in there to sort of dance about with
Sure,
it,
sure.
and that kind of sucked all the wind out the room. But I keep saying it sucked all the air out the room, isn't it? I say it every week, and then I listen back and I'm like, oh, what an idiot! I sound like one of those European guys that gets all the catchphrases
And I
wrong.
just nod my head.
But
I
yeah,
go,
so the
yeah.
Margot Robbie,
Paul has a British accent. He must be right. That's what I do.
yeah, he must be intelligent. So yeah, I think Vanessa Kirby would be great. Obviously, what we've been hearing is that the movie's going to be centered around Sue Storm, and she's going to be the lead. You know, you're gonna get if you
Ooh.
announce. Typically, it's led by Reed Richard. If you announce that, you know you're gonna get some backlash online. But I was thinking about it, and there is a way they can do it. So Reed Richards is still the head of the Fantastic Four, but they base it from Sue's perspective of what that is. So she's kind of like you're grounded, like experiencing all these things. And I've been rereading the Jonathan Hickman run. Spoilers for what happens in that run. We're not going to ruin the whole thing, but basically in it, Reed Richards builds something called the Bridge, which allows him to look into the multiverse and see how problems were solved on other universes. For example, the first thing he does is he looks at the history of Civil War and sees if there was a way to resolve that conflict peacefully. And then he starts looking at all the other problems, and this whole time he's not telling Sue about it, so she's just kind of being like, well, he keeps disappearing from his family and disappearing and going to his room for 5 hours a day and stuff. And then what happens is he sees versions of himself, and he realizes these strangers come forward and they're like, "You're almost close to figuring out, Reed. Come with us." And eventually he realizes that there's a council of Reeds that have abandoned their family and they oversee every problem in the multiverse. So they kind of have planets where they grow crops, just to feed planets that don't have it. They fight intergalactic threats. If they come across like a Doctor Doom version who's went insane and he's going to destroy everything, they basically lobotomize him and have a basement just full of Doctor Dooms from across the multiverse all standing in a row. And it's very what it boils down to though is eventually that they all say we had to leave our family to come and do this, and that's the choice you have to make. Do you want to solve everything, which has been your goal the entire time, but it'll cost your family? So I think from Susan's perspective, I think that would be just seeing him constantly disappearing and then coming back. I think that would be quite an interesting thing, and then you could kind of
Yeah.
discover what Reed's actually been up to.
Yeah.
But he is like Reed Richards. A lot of people don't realize they just associate him with like the stretch powers and stuff. They just think, oh, he can stretch his arm out in his Todger and stuff like that. But what Reed is like he's like the smartest person in the universe. So that's what I always get drawn towards, and I think that's where the real interesting stories come from. And they could kind of pair it like, what's it like being married to a man like that? I don't know if they will do
Yeah.
that, but that's just putting it out there so people who hear Sue is going to be the main character, they don't lose their mind. You know, there is potential to do things certain ways that keep things interesting for both men and
Well,
women.
first off, I mean,
So yeah,
like Sue Storm has not exactly gotten the greatest portrayals in live action thus far. Reed Richards is obviously the lead.
yeah,
So, in the Fantastic Four live action movies, whatever opinions you have of them, I actually like Rise of the Silver Surfer. I thought that was a reasonable, entertaining film. But even there,
okay.
even in that one, Jessica Alba Sue Storm is not the greatest portrayal of Sue Storm, and I think Vanessa Kirby is a solid pick. Like Sue Storm she's very intelligent, scientifically minded as well, compassionate, caring, strong, resilient, responsible, assertive, and I think that with everything we've seen of Vanessa Kirby, I haven't actually seen The Crown, but what everyone's always sort of told me about her performance there, she plays Princess Margaret, if I'm not mistaken, is that she can bring a
Yeah,
real sensitive and nuanced portrayal to the role. And, obviously her action and work like Mission Impossible and Hobbs and Shaw, but anything I've ever seen her in, she can bring a lot of complexity to there. And she has this grace, this sophistication about her. And more importantly, with her immediately throwing her into an ensemble that she has to lead, I think she constantly is able to generate amazing chemistry with whoever she's on screen with. She knows how to connect with other actors so well, which is a big part of acting. It sounds so obvious, but yet it's so important to when describing who Sue Storm is. So I feel like she's an amazing pick for Sue Storm, and she has the look too as well. She also has got the look for Sue Storm. Do you have a Reed Richards? I
yeah.
heard Matt
No,
Smith's name going around, and I feel like Matt Smith would be a good pick, actually.
nah, I really don't.
No, oh man, he's my favorite
I
doctor, so I feel
yeah, I
like he'd
don't.
be a good. I mean, it might be too Doctor Who-ish, but I still feel like he'd be a good pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Reed Richards in my head, like Krasinski was pretty close, but I don't know if that's because I'm too attached to the Secret Wars
Hmm.
run. Yeah, I just don't know with Matt Smith. I think Dev Patel, whose name's been put forward, I think he's quite a good choice. Um, I mean, who else has been Adam Driver? Kind of, I see it. I think basically Reed Richards needs to be a dickhead, and that's kind of what makes him
You don't think
interesting. He's
Matt
sort of
Smith
like your
can
Doctor
pull that off?
Strange.
I feel like Matt Smith can totally pull
Yeah,
it off.
but
Did you like
yeah,
him as
I suppose. I mean, yeah, Damon. Obviously, yeah. I don't know why I'm getting drawn to Doctor Who. I mean, Damon, who's
he needs to
fantastic
be
in
a
House of the
blend
Dragon,
of
as him.
Doctor Who and Damon in one some type
Yeah,
of
I don't
middle
know.
ground there.
I'm thinking Morbius as well. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's kind of yeah. And I just don't. Yeah, I don't know for Reed Richards. I really don't know. I mean, I'd have to see. You know, actors can pull stuff off. Obviously, you know, Heath Ledger famously, no one wanted him as the Joker. No one wanted Ben Affleck as Batman. So, I mean, give the guy a chance. That they obviously know more than
Yeah.
me if he's good. But I personally just don't fully see him as
I
Reed
throw my
Richards.
I,
But he might.
I throw my hat in the ring, man. I feel like he can play off the serious, analytical, intense side, but also be charismatic leader. He's got the experience with sci-fi with Doctor Who as well. He can play intelligent and complex. And there's something about his physique too. His face, not really. I'll give you that. Like he doesn't look like when I think of Reed Richards, I don't know. The face of Matt Smith is not something I would paste onto Reed Richards, right?
It's not fan art, you know what
Yeah,
I
it's
mean?
not the fan
People have
art I
thrown
would
up hundreds
imagine,
of fan art
but
pictures.
his actual
Yeah.
physicality there with the whole like not that it needs to be this because it's a superpower being super elastic and whatnot, but there's something about his kind of lanky, slender build that I do think can fit with Reed Richards in some way. I just love I love Matt Smith. I even liked him in Morbius. So yeah, he's my favorite part of Morbius.
Oh shit.
So yeah.
Bill Skarsgård. I was looking up it to see who did which studio produced it. Bill Skarsgård popped up. Didn't spring to mind initially as Reed Richards, but just in this picture, he looks a bit like Reed Richards. So we'll give it to Bill Skarsgård, guys. We've decided we've just got loads of actors and laid them out on the table. Bill Hader, he's also in it as well. He looks slightly like Reed
Actually, Bill
Richards.
Hader,
Yeah.
I would love
Um,
that. I would love Bill Hader.
yeah. So another thing that came from it was, I mean, if you were online on Twitter on Friday, it was bloody just non-stop fantastic forecastings. So Jack Quaid got announced as being Johnny Storm. That came from the John Roca podcast, I think.
Yeah. I
Now,
think because they saw
is it John
JQ,
Rocker?
they saw JQ, so they thought it
Yeah.
was Jack Quaid.
And then what happened was Jack Quaid denied it and said, it's not me. Denied it within the hour. And then I think Snyder got a text on the stream saying that it was actually Joseph Quinn. So he got that from his source saying, no, it's actually Joseph Quinn who's Johnny Storm. Now, people have speculated that if you get so he apparently got the initials JQ, and that was what he went, oh, that's Jack Quaid. But people have been like, well, why did he just say Jack Quaid out of nowhere? I mean, if you got those two initials, you wouldn't just think, oh, that's Jack Quaid and say it on the podcast.
Right.
So what people started to speculate, Greg, was that Jack Quaid is in the cast already, and that's why he read it and then thought it was that, and then it was clarified to be Joseph Quinn. Now, Grace Randolph Saturday. Let's cut to Saturday, Greg. Grace Randolph on Saturday says that Jack Quaid is cast in the movie, but he's not playing Johnny Storm. So people have started joining the dots. I'm talking about myself here. We've started joining the dots and thinking, well, Snyder he obviously knew that Jack Quaid was in it, got a text saying Johnny Storm JQ, and was like, oh, Johnny Storm Jack Quaid. Like, no, Joseph Quinn. He's like, oh crap. So they think that he kind of gave the game away, that Jack Quaid's in the movie. Might not be true, but yeah, people have been speculating that he could be a part of it as well. Josh from Den of Nerds did a podcast recently talking about it. He thinks that he's going to be Nathaniel Richards, who, if you don't know, Reed Richards' son, has the ability to alter reality. Started off as a mutant. I don't think he's a mutant anymore, but he can just change things on a whim and basically. And what the theory was that Franklin Richards, he's going to be young, he's going to be a kid. But what happens in the comics, is that he just someone says to him like, "What do you want be? What do you want to be when you grow older?" Or something along those lines. And he thinks like, "What am I going to be when I'm older?" And then he just turns into an adult because he hasn't got a full grasp of his powers. So whatever he thinks just happens. And people are speculating that Jack Quaid's going to be like the older version of Nathaniel. And he's going to be a kid. He's going to go, what will I be when I'm older? And then he's going to warp into that. Now, that's not based on any leaks. That's just everyone guessing. But yeah, Josh from Denim Nerd said that. And I thought, you know what? That would be a good thing because Jack Quaid could pull off the whole Tom Hanks big thing, I think. But we'll have to see.
Or he's
now,
Dr. Doom. Come on.
Hope not. I was thinking Antonio Banderas. I know he's getting rumored to be Galactus.
Terrible choice.
I was thinking I think he'd be a much better Doctor Doom.
Jack Quaid would be a much better Doctor Doom. I think he'd be relatable.
Now, what does Reed Richards have, Greg? He's got grey sideburns. Who else has grey? Well, not grey sideburns, grey temples. You know what I'm saying? But we're going in the next section. Who else has got grey?
Where you go?
Zachery Levi has got grey.
Are you
temples
transitioning
these days, hasn't he?
to the Zachery Levi news?
So everyone's been getting cancelled this week.
Wait, hold on.
Everyone's been getting cancelled.
Wait, we didn't even touch on really quick. I want to spend 1 minute on this because I've seen backlash for Joseph Quinn. If I can just take 30 seconds to say this, I think that Joseph Quinn would be a great Johnny Storm if he is that pick. Who did he play in Stranger Things again, Paul? Eddie. Yes, Eddie. Like when you think about Johnny Storm as this impulsive, jovial, humorous guy, brave and loyal, confident, flirtatious, adventurous, emotional, all these qualities of Johnny Storm, I think they're all representative of just that one perform. I don't think he'd play Eddie. You know, obviously Eddie's a little bit shunned and looked down upon, whereas Johnny Storm wouldn't be. I feel like Joseph Quinn would be a perfect pick for it. Maybe not the look that I imagined, but I want to throw in my defense for Joseph Quinn. It's just the 30 seconds I wanted to do before transitioning to
Yeah.
Zachary Levi, my hero in the media.
Okay.
We have some.
So so we've ruined the whole section
Sorry.
there. But Zachary Levi is everyone's in hot water this week. Should we just start with Stephen Amell? Because I tried to do the segue
And I
and
fucked
then
it up.
it just
I
ruined it.
totally fucked up. I just
Yeah.
had to defend Joseph Quinn for a second. I'm sorry, Paul.
So yeah, we're getting to a point now where the strikes have obviously started dragging out quite a bit. And because of that, some actors are getting frustrated with it. Now, Arrow star Stephen Amell, the UStoday.com, they've done a big story on it. They've said Stephen Amell's solidarity with SAG-AFTRA has come into question. So he made an appearance at GalaxyCon in North Carolina last Saturday and spoke out against the union's decision to strike after several failed negotiations. He said, "I support my union, I do, and I stand with them. However," he said, "I do not support striking. I don't. I think it's a reductive negotiating tactic. And I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating." And then he went on to say, and I think the thinking as it pertains to shows like the show I'm on, premiered last night, I think it's myopic.
Great promo.
Heels, yeah, so he just said that. Yeah. So yeah, he did like a really weird Instagram video as well. Did you see that? Where he was standing in front of the billboard for Heels and he was just like selfieing himself, which I don't know how else you selfie yourself. But he was standing like going, I like my hard work or something like that. And he was just showing off the billboard behind him. But one of the stipulations with like SAG is you can't promote your work. So he's like clearly promoting his own work, standing, filming himself in front of his billboard and showing it off, going, I just appreciate doing my hard work. I just want my hard work. What do you think about the whole situation?
I think Stephen Amell is definitely promoting his show. First off, even in that quote that was going around, he might not say heel season 2, but he says like the show that I'm on that premiered last night. And he went on his little Instagram rant, and then he even went on TMZ as well. And I think like, yeah, especially with the timing of everything. Now's not the time to be putting yourself out there where you want to cause any type of confusion. Because when I'm reading everything, because I've read everything he said, and the bottom line consensus that I feel like he's trying to say, what I really feel like he's trying to say. I know the easy thing for me to do would just be to just completely shit on him. I still think it's idiotic in the way how he's gone about it, and he really shouldn't have just said any of this, especially right now. I think what he's trying to say is, yes, he does support the union because he believes in democracy. He believes in the vote. He really believes in that. And bottom line is everyone voted for that, so of course he's going to support them. He does wish, though, that it didn't go down this path because he feels like putting things to a halt was not the best solution to it. But regardless, he's still going to support them. At the same time, though, as I was coming out of my mouth, I was going, it's still very he seems to contradict himself a lot with being like, no, here's what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, he's not really. I think he sounds very hurt that he can't promote his show, that he worked very hard on, that this is coming out during the time of the strike happened, right around the time he's supposed to promote Heel Season 2, a show that he has worked very hard for. And I think he actually really injured himself working on, because it's a wrestling show. And I think he severely injured himself at one point. And it does really bother him, but everyone's affected by this who's not able to promote this. Everyone who has something come. I'm sure the Blue Beetle actors would love to be promoting that to try to help it get more box office revenue right now. I'm sure everyone who has a show coming out would love to promote it. And, I imagine what he is actually saying, and I guess the reason why I was trying to give the slightest slither of a benefit of a doubt, just the very slightest little hole, even though I'm like, nah, dude, what you're saying, you shouldn't be saying this right now. You sound very contradictory to yourselves. At the same time, I do think he is potentially saying something that a lot of people are feeling, who have their projects coming out. But that's part of the sacrifice, and that's part of being in unity. That's part of being in solidarity. That's what you sign up for here. And so the best thing you should do, and the mature part in terms of standing in solidarity, especially when you are a prolific actor right now who is in SAG, that you should just be right now. The thing that you ought to be honing in on with your when you're vocalizing stuff is just the support with your colleagues, is your support with everyone else. So I don't think he should be going out there saying most of what he's saying, even though I feel like he's trying to have a great conversation. He's trying to have it be multi-layered. He's trying to have it be nuanced. All that nuance is going to get lost. You're dealing with the rhetoric of people who love to clip out things, and no one really reads things in a nuanced way. I'm even trying to read this in a nuanced way, and I'm having a hard time doing it right now because I'm like, oh, you're a little contradictory because you seem to constantly bring it back to, I don't believe that striking was the way to go about it. Where what else? What other? This got to the point where there was no other options left. They had to go on strike. There was nothing else left, and there's never a good time to strike for anyone. And I could get I think the way to phrase it, just plain and simple, would have been, I wish I could promote what I want to promote right now. Unfortunately, we have a strike happening, and I have to support that strike, and I have to stand by my fellow actors as well. So I can't talk about those things as much as I'd love to talk about those things. I can't because we are on strike, and I have to show my support there. That's how he probably should have phrased it, instead of the way he's been going about it. I feel like he's not communicating
Yeah.
this well at all. And he probably should have just ended it with that Instagram long thread that he put out instead of going on TMZ trying to clarify, because I think he just made things worse for himself.
Yeah, I think in situations like this, you have to take the good with the bad. If you're enjoying being in a union where you get benefits because of it, you have someone to turn to for advice and stuff. If they go on strike, even if you disagree with that, you've just got to bite your lip,
Yeah,
bite your tongue, and you've got to take the good with the bad. It can't always be in
of
your
course.
favor if you're part of a union. You don't, if you have individualistic needs and wants, then don't join a union, because a union's entire thing is about people united as one
Hmm.
whole instead of just one person. So maybe, if you don't want that whole union mentality, then don't join the union, because this is, you're going to have to sacrifice some stuff if people go on strike. And that's probably going to happen at some point in a union's history, unless they get everything their way. Yeah, I thought it was just a stupid thing to say. I think in situations like this, the only thing that, even if you disagree, you should just say something like, I hope everyone gets treated fairly, and I'd love to live in a world where everyone gets paid fairly. And that's all you have to say. I mean, if A24, who agreed to all the terms that the strikers put forward, the unions put forward, if they can agree to it, why can't Disney and Warner Brothers and stuff like that? Why can't they agree to the terms? They've got way more money, and it just, something's going on here that makes the studios look very greedy in my eyes. And having actors like this as well come out and say they don't support striking, and it's just kind of like, well, yeah, you have to. Unfortunately, you're going to have to do it. Otherwise, leave the union. If you don't support one of the main things,
Yeah.
then you can't just have all the benefits of being in a union. Every single thing on earth has pros and cons to it, no matter what it is. If you join a union and they go on strike, guess what? You're on strike.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think you just need to just go off on your own, mate. If you
Well,
don't
I
agree with
think
that,
like
which you won't do, because the unions benefit you too much.
I think that one of the dumbest things he said was what he ended it off with, of saying that this strike is this whole the process of going about it is myopic. You know, essentially implying that the process of the strike. They're focusing too much on the here and now without thinking about the future or the bigger picture of things. And with this, what is obviously this need that he has to promote heel season 2, that is him being that he's being myopic about it. He's focused so much on, I really want to promote this right now, which I understand. Like, I can understand the pain of that. Like, that is one part of it where I can totally get, because you spend so much time working on a show, and to finally come out as your one time to promote it, and you can't do it when it's about to premiere. And he probably feels that the whole responsibility of heels doing well falls on his shoulders because he's the biggest name attached to it. Sure, I get that. At the same time, the myopic part about it on his end is he's too focused on the here and now for him, instead of the bigger picture for what the SAG strike is ultimately about and what it ultimately represents, which is an end game battle. That's the real bigger picture, which he also stands to greatly benefit from as well, if SAG can ultimately get what they want. Even with something like, with his residuals for shit like Arrow and whatever, or Heels is on I think it does go onto a stream. I'm not sure about that, but all his appearances in the Arrowverse, like, dude, your checks would get a whole lot better right now if you guys can get the residuals that you want. I watched all of Arrow, and I watched it all on Netflix, and so yeah, I think that he's not being smart about this, and every time I try to be like, what's he really trying to say? He just says something that I'm like, dude, no, you're shooting yourself in the foot, man. Stop. Dial it back.
Yeah.
I don't think Zachary Levi said was
Heels.
Zachary Levi said one sentence like he said. Zachary Levi is a bit of I know we're going to go into that, and I think Zachary Levi has a target on his back at any given moment. In some ways, he's kind of like I liken it sort of to Chris Pratt in a sense of people already got so many issues with the guy that it just takes one little thing for him to say to really hear. Because I don't think what he said is as drastically egregious as what Stephen Amell said. It was still stupid what he said. Don't get me wrong. It was an idiotic thing for him to say. But he's also, really vehemently supported the strike. Prior to the statement, it seemed like there was just one part of it that he said something dumb, but yeah.
So I've seen someone on Twitter say that Zachary Levi is who people think Chris Pratt is. Yeah, but I mean, we'll get into what his comments were. So just going back to Heels and what you said about it being myopic, yeah, completely agree. Heels season 2, people might not talk about it this time next year, but the stuff that's happening with the strikes is going to benefit people for decades. So yeah, maybe just stand in solidarity with them, please, Stephen. You've seen the backlash you've got. Hopefully that's helped you to understand why people are annoyed at your comments, and you might come in and be like we say stupid stuff all the time, Greg, in the moment, and then someone will be like, "Oh, you're being a bit of a dickhead there, mate," and I'll go, you know what? I think I might be being a bit of a dickhead. We don't go on TMZ and double down, to be fair, but we're like, you may have a point there. So yeah, hopefully he just realizes this. I actually read somewhere that the entire cast of Arrow is set to join the picket line on Saturday, and they're kind of wondering, like, will Stephen Amell show up? So yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but I guess we're gonna see. So Zachary Levi's comments on the strike. The guy, he went to Comic-Con Manchester, just down the road. And the 42-year-old, I don't know why it says his age, the 42-year-old actor told the crowd, "I'm not allowed to talk about, this is so dumb, I'm not allowed to talk about any of my previous work. I'm not allowed to talk about movies that I may be a superhero in. I'm not allowed to talk about TV shows that I may have been a nerd who worked at Best Buy in. I'm not allowed to talk about any animated princess movies that I was fantastic in as the best prince ever. I'm not allowed to talk about those things." And he got really angry and punched someone in the face. So what I did read it and was like, I kind of see his point, but I actually had it explained to me, going back to that whole thing with Stephen Amell. We learn and we grow. So the way that it got explained to me was, well, Chris Pratt, sorry, even I'm calling him Chris Pratt, Zachary Levi, him saying I was a prince in something, people might go and Google Zachary Levi Prince movie animated. They then get the name of the film and they go and watch it on a streaming service. Now that pays the studio who are withholding wages from the actors. So even him doing that could make someone, say 100 people see that and they go Google what that movie is and then they inadvertently give money to the studio, which the unions are trying to combat right now, which makes sense. And that's why the whole promotion thing isn't happening. Because the money's going to people that are exploiting workers. So
Fair
the
point.
thing about both these comments is that they said it at an event, and I know Stephen Amell was like, those comments weren't meant to be public, and it's like, well, why did you say them in public? But to be fair, I think when you're on a mic and you're just kind of improvising, like we say stupid shit all the time again. I don't think he completely thought of the ramifications of it, and I think in the moment he was just kind of explaining, "I'm not allowed to talk about this thing. I'm not allowed to talk about this thing." He's entertaining a crowd. Should he have said it? Probably not. But I think what's rubbing people the wrong way is him saying
That
it's
was the
dumb
worst part. That's all he had to
when
not say.
the
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He just said, "I'm not allowed to talk about this. I'm not allowed to talk about this. Can we talk about this?" But it doesn't really seem like he's going against the strike itself. He's kind of like, whereas Stephen Amell's sort of saying he doesn't agree with striking, it feels like Zachary Levi's not necessarily going against the strike.
Yeah.
But it did kind of turn out to be a bit of a
I
shitstorm
I
for him
think with
again.
Zach Levi, I mean, it's really obvious what Zachary Levi's talking about, and I mean, I think the guy's a little crazy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I totally get what people have to say about the guy. He seems a little bit nutty. It seems like he's really specifically just talking about the whole. He even had like he tried to clarify what he meant, and he has been outspoken for the prior to this. He has really thrown his hat in the ring for the support for the WGA and SAG. I think he's talked when he's saying this is so dumb. I felt, at least when I watched the clip, it seemed to me, my personal interpretation about it was this thing that is very confusing for people who are still celebrities who are attending these fan events, who are there
Yeah,
based off of their work. That is why they are there. One of our buddies, Coy Jandro, he just hosted Fan Expo where there was, first Stephen Amell was there, and then there's all these other celebrities who are there, but they can't talk about any of their work. And yet that's what the fans paid for initially prior to the strike to show up for, to engage with them on, and they can't talk about any of it. So part of it does seem a little silly when you think about it, right? I'm here, but I can't. What am I supposed to talk about when I can't talk about anything that you guys actually showed up here initially to hear me talk about? I can't touch on any of those subjects. The problem is, again, the communication, the phrasing of those things, trying to make levity and try to make humor out of the situation while engaging with your audience, while trying to bring us a level of self-awareness. He ended up saying something, and like trying to be funny at the same time. He ended up saying something stupid.
yeah,
He ended up saying, "This is so dumb." And I'm like, "Well, dude, no, you're more than likely going to get the text of what you're saying is going to spread more than the video of you saying it. The video of you will spread, and I'll still look bad, But
yeah,
just reading it sound like when I first read it before seeing the video, it sounded significantly worse to me just reading it. And he did try to clarify it, again, so in the whole thing of like, yes, this is all necessary. The strike is necessary and all that. And then he did go on to basically speak about, but we also cannot forget our fans during the strike, fans that spend their money and energy traveling far distances to talk with us about our work that means so much to them. We should be able to engage. Our business exists and succeeds because of the fans, and I think it's imperative we appreciate them for their support of our careers. So it seemed like he was a bit at odds with himself during the fan event, which I'm sure, again, I'm
Yeah.
like, I can imagine a lot of people who are attending these fan events, these celebrities are also feeling that. So you got to be extra careful about your approach and how to talk about things. It's as simple as, and I think it's just as simple as saying, there's so much I would love to talk with you guys about, but I got to stand in solidarity and we have a strike going on, so I can, and I hope you can understand that. It's that simple, that
Yeah.
simple. But yeah,
Yeah. When before when you said what do the actors talk about at these events, I personally think that would be the perfect place to talk about the strike and what you're fighting for
yeah,
and why you're on strike and explain that, because it's such a hot topic as well. Like, we even just us diving into it, our most popular episodes have been where we've talked about the strike. So yeah, there's obviously interest around it. I think it was just a communication issue, and it's probably his personality where he wants to be an
hmm,
entertainer. Um, like, there's touchy subjects that you kind of have to be very careful about. And he's obviously, he's known for his comedy, and if you're standing up on stage like that, you're probably trying to be entertaining rather than dour. But yeah, I think you could have just talked about the strike and what Hollywood are doing and why it's not fair to the actors. Like, Simu has just come out. I'll get the quote up in just a bit. But there's actually been a lot of developments whilst we've been doing this
oh really?
episode. Now there's not like major things, not it's not going to change the outcome, I don't think. But just more people standing in solidarity. So yeah, Simo said what people often don't understand is your average SAG actor isn't a lead on a TV show making whatever amount of money per year. They're really going to gig. They're really going gig to gig and struggling, and we need to make sure the industry conditions are such that they don't get exploited. So yeah, that's kind of what I think what Zachary Levi should have said, something along those lines. Um, and yeah, there's also been a post about Netflix Korea. So Netflix apparently does not give any residuals to South Korean actors for their shows.
Really?
Supporting actors pay for these Netflix shows. Yeah, supporting actor pay for these Netflix shows starts at $300 per episode. The president of Korea's Actors Union has sent several messages to Netflix and has gotten no response. And that's from the LA Times. So, I mean, if you think about those Korean shows as well, the Netflix ones especially, Greg.
Yeah,
Every time one comes out, I end up covering it because it's just
huge,
the amount of
huge.
exposure and the views
Yeah,
that they get. And I mean, Squid
huge,
Game's
biggest.
their biggest
Yeah.
show ever, and that's crazy. It's sort of like its own Squid Game when you look at it, because they're bloody exploiting everyone from Korea and just making entertainment out
Right.
of it. And then they're also making their own real life version of Squid Game without noticing any of the irony. So well done there, Netflix. Yeah. So what I feel in general is that I wasn't completely like I'll be honest with you guys. The most ignorant ones of you out there, you pieces of crap. I was probably worse than you in terms of ignorance about what this whole SAG thing was. Obviously, I knew about actors. I
Mhm.
had but I didn't understand the whole residual things. I didn't understand like what streaming was taking away from actors. And for example, say a season of Cheers, people are still making money off that because it's still getting shown in reruns and stuff. Whereas something that got made last month, people aren't making money from that because it's on a streaming service and stuff like that. I just didn't understand the whole thing. And I think what this has really brought to light and what the publicity has done to kind of it's given a really negative light to Hollywood. I feel just them dragging out the strikes in general, it's allowing a lot more actors to show how bad residuals are. And I think if they don't agree to the demands, there's going to be a lot of big actors who just flat out refuse to sign onto streaming movies and streaming shows because they're going to think, well, I could go work at HBO and do a TV show, and I'll probably still be getting paid for the next couple of years. Whereas if I do a streaming show, if the front end cost isn't that good, then I'm not going to bother doing it because there's no back end money
Yeah.
coming in. There's been so many actors that have come out and said, when I was working as a waiter or something and I got a part time job on a TV show, when I couldn't afford stuff, that residual check sometimes arriving at the door, it helped me through the week. And that's not the case anymore. And I think it's just shone Hollywood in such a bad, greedy light. And again, we're having this whole thing with Bob Iger, who we're going to use on the thumbnail, because I feel like he's really becoming the face of Hollywood at the moment, where it's Disney are the big conglomerate. They're saying they can't pay these actors, but they're getting so much in bonuses. They're at billionaire weekend clubs, spending insane amounts on budgets, greenlighting things like Haunted Mansion, having so many flops in a row. All the Marvel shows. I'm going to be honest with you, Greg. As much as we crap on them, like, oh, is Marvel dead? Is Disney lost? Has Kevin Feige lost his touch? I don't feel like Kevin Feige was desperate to do Disney Plus shows. I think what happened was Bob Iger came in and was like, "Look, mate, we're launching a streaming service. Marvel's a big property. You better start making TV shows for it, and you better make them bloody good." And I feel like he's just kind of forced Feige into doing lots of different TV shows, and it's all out of greed. We talk about this every week, how greed is just such a damaging thing. The studios could easily pay. I saw a figure saying that it would cost 20 million to meet the actor demands. That's how much it would cost the studios. And you think about the amount of money that they throw away and burn and give people in bonuses. That's one Bob Iger a year prior to bonuses to support an industry of 160,000 or 600,000, whatever people. It's crazy. And I think that this is like, from an outside point of view, do you think this is looking good for the studios, or do you think it's looking bad for them? Because
I
I
mean,
can't see any way that it's being spun
it's
positively for
obviously
them.
looking bad for them. I mean, even what you what you just brought
Yeah.
up. I mean, it's a good point, because it seems like whenever it comes to the working man, it's and them wanting to be paid more fair, it becomes an issue, a financial issue. Yet these
Yeah.
CEOs and whatnot can constantly write themselves like ludicrous bonus checks every quarter or at the end of the year or something like that. They gladly pay themselves significantly more, and this entire thing has been exposing the ugliness of it, because at the end of the day, they need to the SAG, WGA, they need to work with the studios, and the studios, they need to work with them as well. And if you are the boss, it's so hard for you guys to look like you're the victim in this situation, that you are that you're being treated poorly or something like that. Everything about this is just exposing it to even Zaslav, when he was doing the meeting recently, and he expressed this whole sentiment about how we're hoping this ends by fall. I think he was saying, like, we're hoping this all ends by fall.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
September.
September. I hope this ends by September. We want to make sure that they feel they are paid fairly. We are in the business of storytelling. I'm just going off memory here. I'm not quoting exactly, but he was saying all this. He was basically saying all that. But then the big part is, it wasn't him who said it. I think it might have been the CFO who said it, that they managed to save just shy of like $100 million, which we were talking about earlier. And that's the takeaway right there. Doesn't, like, everything that you were trying to say, Zaslav, with trying to say the right things, like when he was giving that commencement speech and trying to say the right things, but then the crowd was booing him and chanting against him. This is another example of that. Like, yeah, you're taking the different path than what Bob Iger said. Smart to do that. But then you have the CFO saying the $100 million thing, which again is like, oh, look at them. They're now trying to express how the strike has been beneficial for them and how this is a good thing that they are not paying. That it's like it all circles back to the greed of what you're talking about. It all circles back to you guys are now saying that these things that they are, everyone is, that these camps are now unemployed right now, that they are struggling. A lot of them are protesting out in the heat every single day, trying to fight for what's right, for being treated unfairly. Them being treated unfairly has allowed you guys to now benefit financially even more. Trying to even though that is the word myopic, that is a very myopic way of thinking about it, because that is the right now. Down the road, you need those screenplays, you need those actors on set, you need all that, or else they're not going to
100%,
generate any
yeah.
of those profits. So you're trying to make a neat spin on it right now, but bottom line, the message that is now being conveyed is we are benefiting from this. And then there's even those reports coming out. I don't have any of it in front of me right now, but I just remembered how there was those reports coming out, which I feel like they intentionally leaked to try to scare, of like Netflix hiring an AI consultant for nearly $1 billion or something like that, And even though it was saying it was more about algorithmic measures and try to help make business decisions on what kind of direction to take the movies and studios or what to focus on, is more based off that. Still, just it getting out there as a headline of them hiring AI experts and throwing down, instead of paying their writers and actors and willing to match that, willing to match what they're asking for, they're now hiring AI experts and paying them hundreds of millions of dollars instead of paying their
Yeah, it's
writers and
crazy.
actors. It's insanity what they're doing. They're being assholes about it. And it does show the utter disregard that they have for the how essential these people are. Because I think they look at it as, I don't even know exactly how they look at it, man. Like they're the AMPTP, and there's only a few people in their position, so they get the big fancy checks. While they have, when there's only a few of them, and 100 something thousand of the actors. There's only a few of them and thousands of writers. So they probably just look at them
Yeah.
as a
I mean,
number.
I've worked at places where like I've asked for equipment, or another member of staff's asked for equipment, like say like, oh, I need a new laptop. My other one's broke. And they're like, oh, what one do you need? And they'll be like, oh, I need like this £3,000 one. And then I've asked for like a pay rise of £1,000 a year, and they've been, what? No, no, we can't do that. We can't. It's like, mate, like the laptop is as important as I am to this
Yeah,
job. You know what I mean? Like my and all like I don't I'm gonna brag, but like so all my members of staff that work for me now have had at least 2 pay rises in less than 2 years, and it's purely because the business is doing well, uh, and I don't want them to become resentful and being like, and we are in a cost of living crisis as well. And I personally believe that if people are comfortable financially, they're not stressing about bills all the time, and they actually see themselves getting rewarded, that they'll
yeah,
work better. I just and because I've worked in places where I've been treated like that, and it's really helped. And I've worked in places where it's been like, oh, we've taken away your Saturday night shift because we just can't afford to pay you this, and it's made me
Mhm.
stress out because I've lost that money. And I just think in general, like that Hollywood's just shooting themselves in the foot, because there's going to be so many disgruntled people that return, pissed off, undervalued, demoralized. I mean, look at this thing now. How many generations is this going to set back who wanted to come into this industry that now just think, I'll just go be a dickhead YouTuber instead because I'm not going to make money as a famous actor or a screenwriter. And I think they shoot themselves in the foot constantly just because of greed, and because it's like, oh, they could do it. They know they could do it. They're gonna have to do it eventually because their industry can't survive without these people that they're brushing to the side. The fact is that all these execs and stuff 100% rely on the actors and writers. You take away 10 execs from a company, nothing's going to change really. Minor things will change. Some projects might not get greenlit. You take away all the actors and writers from Hollywood, the industry is completely fucked. It's the same as if you took away all the cameramen, all the gaffer, the best boys. If you take away certain segment of it, you're completely fucked. And for the amount that the execs get paid, I mean, we went through the wage list recently, and Zaslav was getting like 500 million. Iger was like 25 million per year. think about how many people's wages that covers. I mean, could Iger do with 1 less million a year? Could we move him on to 24 million a year? Could we move Bob Iger down to, instead of $500 million, move him down to 400 million? Is he going to really see the difference there? And I personally don't think you would, and I think it would make so much of a difference to other people's lives. It's a thriving industry. It's based on creativity. People often do their best work when they're not worried about money and constantly stressed out all the time. There will come some things that arise from those situations, but I think just looking after people who you rely on is a very important thing to do as a boss. And I think if you don't, I mean, the amount of companies I've worked at where there's been, say, a team of 30 or something, and like when I worked in a call center, and they just treated everyone like shit. Even like the like we were all part of like the top 5 team, always got put on the big projects because we're like, oh, these guys can sell. They always bring the money in. They always get the completions. We all ask for a pay rise. Nah, what? Nah, sod that. We can't afford it. All of us left at the same time, and the company ended up shutting its doors like 6 months later because it will hit a point where you've pissed off so many people in the organization that they just leave. And I think, yeah, they just need to treat people better. I think it's gonna cause so many issues down the line that could easily be avoided, and they are gonna have to negotiate at some point. So why are you dragging your heels and making this go on for longer, where people are gonna end up not people are losing out on months of work? They should just go to the negotiations straight away. And we did hear on Friday that they were going to work on it. They were going back to the table with the writers, but it's stalled again, and it's dragging people out. And they made that comment about how they're going to wait until the writers are losing their homes and stuff. And it's just it's not a good way to treat people. I'm going to get deep, Greg. Everything we know about the universe tells us that we're the only form of life in the entire thing. 99.9999999% of the universe is devoid of life, and the one planet we know about for definite that has life on it, everyone treats life like it's a piece of shit. Don't look out for each other, aren't nice, dickheads constantly trying to screw each other over. Just try and be nice, mate. Yeah, we're all we've got. So if you can be nice to someone, just please try and do it.
Love and cooperate, man.
And that's why I get 10-minute birthday intros at the start of episodes, and it's my birthday.
Man. Happy birthday, Paul.
Thanks, guys. So yeah, any final words, Greg? Final words?
No, I just hope you have a great birthday. And I hope that your wife and children, are you going to be hanging out with them, or are you going to go do your own thing? Okay.
Yeah. I'm taking the week off.
All right, man.
Got MT doing a video across the Spider-Verse. So yeah, thank God MT came along when he did, because he's helped me out a great bunch. Actually managed to step back from the channel and take some time off, which I really appreciate.
I messaged you about MT's Guardians video. It was great. Like I was like 17 minutes into it.
Too good, isn't it?
Yeah, Paul, this is an amazing video. Yeah.
It's annoying because he started doing scripts for the editors as well, where he's been putting in assets. Because normally I'll get like a message saying like, Paul, this really obscure comic you reference, what the hell are you talking about? And I'll be like, oh, just go find it. No, I'll have to sit and dig it out. But he's like made a whole document with every single thing that he's talking about. And I checked on Slack today, and all the editors were like, MT the GOAT. I was like, oh. Yeah, he's making me look bad.
He's phenomenal. I mean, I loved his. It's great to have loved his work when he was formerly part of New Rockstars. Thought it was amazing. But not to see him over here, he seems even more in his element. Honestly, it seems more confident and is more sincere.
His Across the Spider-Verse video is really good as well. So guys, keep an eye out for that. That'll be dropping soon. And before you know it, MT will be the only host on the channel, because he'll have taken over and made me look really bad. And I'll be like, I just want to do my podcast with Greg full time these days. Yeah. But thanks a lot, guys, again. Make sure you subscribe to Greg, Real Rejects.
Oh, thanks.
Guys, there's a lot of lot of controversy in the reaction community at the moment. People saying people don't react harder. Tell you what,
Don't
Greg
react.
always puts 100%
I
effort into
react.
transforming it.
We do.
Yeah, he is. Genuinely, when you watch his videos, you can tell the guy's actually like not just sitting there playing someone else's video to get views. Puts thought in, adds so much to it. And yeah, go check out Real Rejects if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. Like, these guys have been about forever, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're so
I
damn good
appreciate
at
it.
what
I
they
think the
do.
channel's better than what it was a few years ago. Every video takes many hours to edit. And there was a time where it didn't take
Yeah.
much time to edit. But now every video takes
Yeah.
a long time to edit. And there's a reason for that. Yeah.
No, you can tell.
So, yeah,
Well, there's always been that controversy in the reaction
definitely.
community, and I know you aren't someone who. There's two ways you can look at everything and be like, "Oh, fuck those guys saying I'm not putting enough effort in," and you went the other way and were like, "We're gonna put in, we're gonna make people realize why reaction content is actually good and why it has a place on YouTube, because we're not just gonna fuck about and
I
phone it in."
appreciate it.
So, I mean, you don't really get any comments like
Not
that anymore,
really,
do you?
no. I mean, I think because we also, especially as we do more movie stuff and more movies and shows, and we're less like
Yeah.
don't really do trailers that often. They see that there's so much, we're like reviewing it as we're watching it, like it's a real commentary piece as well, instead of just us going like, ooh,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like the commentary and analysis, I think, shines a lot more. So I'm very fortunate for what it is, and yeah, I'm proud of the channel.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you, man.
Should be.
You've come such a long way since I first met you, and it's freaking amazing what you're doing. And I'm always trying to pick your brain about what's a better
Steal it.
idea to cover, or which thumbnail. There's this thing on. I'll end it with this. There's this thing on. A lot of people call Paul in my circles. They call him the anomaly. It's been a common phrase. The anomaly.
Weirdo.
How does he do it? How did
The
he do the
weirdo.
classic movie breakdowns? How did he just manage to pull this shit off? And it's always freaking blowing up.
Million views on the aliens
Insane.
video. What a fucking
And
asshole.
he's so much of this AI brain himself that we have this thing on YouTube now where there's it's like an AI. It doesn't create the thumbnail, but you can pretty much put like other thumbnails in there, and it's an AI decipher that'll tell you which one might be better. And it's not like 100% accurate, but sometimes I usually drop in like I might have like 4 thumbnails, and I'll drop them all in and see which one it picks. And 99% of the time, if I just message Paul and say which one of these thumbs, it is the one the AI went with, like every single time. And I'm like, that's why he's the anomaly, man. He's got that machine brain that just knows what to do. It's really funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what you're doing.
Well, thanks for that, guys. Went a bit off tangent there, but yeah, if you're enjoying the show so far, we really appreciate it. Slowly seeing the numbers go up every single week makes a world of difference to us, because it's nice to just sit and hang out and record conversations and people to actually be interested in them. Yeah, obviously, we haven't got everything right. We'll hold our hands up, and there's lots of things you might disagree with us on, you might agree with us on. The comment box is the perfect place. YouTube invented it for you guys to interact with us. Let us know how you feel. Go drop those comments. Subscribe to the show. Like the videos as well. That massively helps us out. We also are on Spotify. We're on Amazon Podcasts. And we're on Apple Podcasts as well. So wherever you want to listen to us, or if it's just still on YouTube, yeah, thanks a lot. And appreciate your support again. We really do. Thanks for letting us do this thing, because that we're gonna get impacted by the strikes as well at some point. The delays in content will hurt us. But having an audience like this, like you guys, where you support us so much on just us chatting like this, it's gonna help us get through it. And we really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks a lot as well for that. You guys, even just by watching the video and clicking the thumbs up button. It takes 2 seconds, but honestly, it changes our whole life, and we really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week. I hope you have as much fun as I am tomorrow on the birthday. So yeah, whenever you're watching this, thanks a lot.